Okay, now continue to talk naturally so that I can get some nice banter before the intro, and I'm gonna pop myself out.
Be natural, he says.
Yeah.
Be natural. Someone is acting in here. I won't have it. Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast where an artist and an entomologist team up to illustrate the inspiring abilities of insects by creating bug-themed superheroes. I'm Amanda.
I'm Kelly. That was so fast, Amanda.
You say that every time, and every time I'm like, I feel like I slowed it down that time. Okay, producer Derek and Desmond are also here. Before we can start creating this bug-inspired hero, what's bugging you, Kelly?
Hey. Yeah, so I just had a paper accepted to the Journal of Vector Ecology yesterday. So exciting.
Oh, yeah.
I'm well, I was already a published author, but I'm a more published author. Hooray!
Even more published. The Wikipedia article is writing itself.
Oh God, I don't want a Wikipedia article.
Do you keep track of how many publications you have? Or is that something you keep track of? Or does that feel too
I don't remember.
cumbersome?
It's not a lot. It's not a lot.
It's enough that if I Googled you, I bet
you can Google
up.
Scholar me. I think it's like 5. I don't know. It's okay. 5 and like consulting work on those graphic novels. Like if those count. Do they count?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
so
because you've consulted on a couple of those, yeah. So I don't know where that falls as far as publication goes when you're a consultant.
As far as journals, like science journals,
yeah.
I
guess that's more what I think of when someone says I'm published. I think of those and now presenting Dr. Kelly Zimmerman on Elytra in space. Not yet. So close though.
So close.
By the time this publishes, you'll be ready.
Maybe.
Your Elytra in space.
My Elytra will be in
I wrote for you just now.
What's bugging you, Amanda?
Oh, it's just been like a crazy week is all. It just feels like it was getting colder at like a reasonable slump, and then all of a sudden it just dropped off. And now it's freezing cold, and the cold has made my children have to stay inside. And now that my children are inside, they are crazy. They are 100% menace. And if I survive the winter, it will be a miracle.
No, it's that they're that wild.
They're absolutely. I want to diapause them is what I want to do. I want them to go on diapause. But I'll see you in spring, please. So
it's very cold here in the Northeast, like 30-something degrees.
I think we get cold overnight right now, but during the day it's like 45, and I'm like, please stop. I'm trying to live.
Well, I hope the children behave. And don't drive me too crazy there, Amanda. I just have cats. I don't know. I don't understand the struggles of the parents.
Well, that's the other thing. We're looking for a cat right now, and then the children behave absolutely hog wild, and I'm like, am I sure I want to add a cat to this?
You do. Yes.
Am I? Producer Derek is being very helpful, sending me about 10 cats a day, being like, maybe this cat, maybe this cat, maybe this cat, and yeah, that's been a journey as well. We'll see. Maybe any day now. Maybe. You just gotta wait for the right one. I'm dating cats all over town right now, as it were.
Cat speed dating. Well, yeah.
Okay, here's the thing. Here's my hot take. Are you ready for my hottest of takes? Pet Finder or whatever the pet finders are. Mm-hmm. They need to make it like Tinder. I need to be able to swipe through those. I need to put my desired traits, good with children, house trained, whatever it is, on there, and then just swipe. Get rid of these pets I can't, because I keep getting the same cats, and then it's like, must be in calm household. I'm like, okay, well that disqualifies me right away. Get out of here. So whoever makes pet Tinder, they'll be in the money. All right.
Well, we also go ahead.
Dating all over town. Oh, I was just going to segue us into our beautiful guests. Speaking of dating all over town, Derek made some beautiful connections in Phoenix with the beautiful podcast of There Will Be Bugs. So we have beautiful guests today, Ben and Zillah.
Hello.
What's bugging you guys? What's bugging Ben and Zillah today?
Well,
Overall, school's been bugging me. It's the end of the semester. It's the finals week next week. And then this week, my taxonomy collection was due. So I had a few late nights in the lab getting my collection together. It's kind of like the off season for me. That doesn't really mean much as a graduate student, because your off season is just spent getting stuff done that you didn't finish during the summer and getting ready for the next summer season or field season. So there's really not an off season. They call it an off season, but that's just a lie. It's to make it feel better when you're not in field season.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like it's prep season instead of due season.
Man,
Zillah, what's bugging you?
I don't know if I have anything bugging me. I'm not in grad school, so I've just been doing, holiday stuff. I have an opinion about cat Tinder or like cat adoption.
Okay, I'm ready.
That's controversial, but maybe you need to consider 2 cats. Like kittens.
Oh my gosh.
2 kittens.
And then they can the right podcast.
And then they can entertain each other when you're busy with the kids.
Oh, I like Zillah. This is excellent.
Yeah, we had Dr. Mike a couple weeks ago, and he was all, "You should get 2."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't go from 0 to 2. That feels like entering hard mode.
It sounds but if you get young cats, then they entertain each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's
the problem is the 6-year-old. I need someone who will play with the 6-year-old when he wants to play, but also won't want to play all the time, because otherwise the 6-year-old will be hype around my house at all times. And that's not the answer.
I'll start sending you bonded pairs.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of bonded pairs out there. So many of them are like, "Here's Claire. Take her home with her best friend Jamie." And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about a 6-year-old, but 2 cats is my
yeah.
I've got 2 and they love each other. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, we have 2 and they hate each other.
Oh no.
Yeah, we didn't get them at the same time. Like I had a cat and then Ben has a cat. So when we moved in together,
and
they are both very jealous of one another. Although since it's gotten cold, they've been a little, sometimes they'll just be like sitting next to each other on the couch casually, as if it's not on purpose that they're cold and like sort of near each other.
I love that.
Mine it's a sibling relationship. Yeah. Where they're like, "Hey, no one can tease him but me." You're like, "Thanks for helping me out." And then they just punch you in the arm.
I have a 15-year-old cat and then like a 3-year-old cat or 4-year-old cat. And the young cat is twice the size as the old cat, even though he's missing a back leg.
Oh my God.
Huge. And so the older cat will come and try to like cuddle with him because he's huge and he wants to be warm. But Finn is young and he doesn't want that. He wants to bite. Right. He wants to he really wants to wrestle. And he will wrestle him right off the couch. It's just the age difference is tough. Get them around the same age.
So many cats named Darcy, by the way, Kelly. I don't know why people out here naming their cats Darcy, but I've seen at least 3 on my hunt for a cat.
Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy.
Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy.
He came with that name. We're not. I'm not a Pride and Prejudice kind of gal.
I know, which you shame me. You shame me, Kelly.
It's not for me. No.
That's fine. I'll find a version because it's in public domain. So there's so many versions. I'll find one. I'll trick you into reading it.
Well, speaking of romance, we are covering a bit of a bug romance today.
They are.
I love when the love bugs love. I know nothing because they consistently keep me in the dark so that I'm hearing everything fresh. So
we kind of do that. So
I know.
So we have kind of the same dynamic as you do, where Ben is an entomologist and I'm an artist. So when him and I like first started talking about doing a podcast, we were like, "Oh, this is such a good team up for like a scientist and an artist. Like no one else is doing that." And then come to find out we're like not even the only podcast like in the entomological space that's like an artist and a scientist team up. So
it's good to play off of each other.
Yeah. And then we covered burying beetles pretty early on because we think that they're very cool. So so yeah.
Yeah.
So Ben, would you like to start us off with the burying beetle basics?
Yeah, absolutely. So burying beetles is a common name for beetles in the Nicrophorus genus. They were considered their own family of Sylphidae. They've now been sunk into the rove beetles, which is this massive family of beetles. Rove beetles in general are pretty inconspicuous beetles. You'll find them in leaf litter, under logs and stuff like that. But the burying beetles themselves, and why I kind of still consider them their own family, is that most of them are kind of these larger, medium to large charismatic beetles that have kind of this really unique life history. And it's a unique history not only within beetles, but within insects. So to kind of get into get right into it, burying beetles are one of the few insects that will display biparental care. So not only the females, but the males will care for their brood. So how this all starts, they get the name carrion beetles or burying beetles. They're also called sexton beetles. They will find dead carcasses, and it's generally like smaller mammals, think the size like mice or small birds. They'll find these carcasses using olfactory senses, so usually by smell, their antenna, and they will track down these carcasses. They'll find the carcass, and then they'll start prepping the carcass for basically burial. So they'll strip off the fur and the feathers of the carcass. They'll kind of form the carcass into a small ball. They do that so that there's less surface area for the carcass, so it doesn't rot as quickly. And then they'll put these secretions on the carcass. It's salivary or like anal secretions on the carcass that has
Oh wait,
yeah.
Before we get into anal secretions,
yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of don't mean to like bulldoze through it. So yeah.
No. So they're kind of charismatic mega beetles. How big are we talking here?
Yeah.
What would you call medium to large in a beetle?
I would to compare it to something, think of like the size of like a Japanese beetle or a June beetle. They're not like the size of your hand, but they're also when you see them, it's not like you need a microscope to see them. They're pretty large and conspicuous when they're crawling around. They also have these bright markings on their body, so they're usually have these orange stripes or dots on their elytra, which are the hardened forewings of beetles. And their head might have these bright colors on them, or their pronotum, which is the covering over their thorax. So they'll usually have like these bright markings on them.
Are they bad eats? Is that where the markings are bred, or are they lying?
Yes, they. From what I saw, they are bad eats. However, it's not entirely clear if they are. There is still predation on them. So I think for some species it might be true, a true aposematic coloring, but in some it might be mimicry of that.
You've never munched on a
I can't say I have tried one.
Untapped market there.
Yeah,
someone wants to try. Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, we're trying to push.
You could be the Dr. Schwartz. Yeah, you could be the Dr. Schwartz of eating beetles. Dr. Schwartz, Dr. Schmidt. What am I saying?
Schmidt, how dare
Dr.
you.
Schmidt. I know, truly. Derek's gonna have to cut that out so I don't lose all my cred.
So they're like they're brightly colored. They're probably the size of maybe the tip of your thumb. And then you said they are looking for carrion, right? Birds, mice.
Yeah. Yep. Usually smaller size animals. And why that's important. So they get the name burying beetle because after they prep the body, they will then go underneath the carcass and dig away at the substrate, and then basically bury the carcass into the ground.
How long does it take for I'm assuming a pair of beetles to do this?
It depends on the size, but generally from what I saw, it can be as short as like overnight. They can have a carcass buried. It can take longer, 24 hours for some of the larger carcasses, and depending on the species, some species are larger than others, but it's generally pretty quick. It's generally pretty quickly, and that's all because they're trying to protect that resource from other things that might get to it. So the faster they can get it into the ground and away from anything that might eat it, the better.
Are they fighting? Do they fight other beetles, other organisms in general for the carcass?
Yeah, so that's kind of part of the whole parental care. So during the burying and afterwards, the mating pair will stick around, and then they will fight off other organisms, other burying beetles, flies. So flies will want to try and inhabit this carcass. They'll fight off the fly. They'll eat any fly eggs and larvae.
Nice.
Carcasses
they're
are like
serious.
popular on the forest floor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that represents a really good resource there. And so they invest a lot of time and resources in protecting that. So if it means fighting off other burying beetles, they'll do that. Or if it just means like eating the larvae of flies, they'll do that as well.
Wow. Our sweet beetle couple who have come to this carcass, do they arrive together, or is it like a corpse meet cute situation?
I met you over a dead mouse in a field.
Yeah.
Our eyes met. I knew you were the one.
Yeah, so a lot of times they meet at the carcass. So they met across the crowded carcass room, and a lot of
the time at my husband.
A lot of specifically for the males, if they get there first, they'll prep the carcass, and then the male will basically sit on the carcass and defend it. They'll defend it from other males, and then they'll release pheromones to attract females, which is also really uncommon for insects. A lot of the times it's females doing the signaling, but in this case, the males will do the signaling. They'll sit on the carcass, they'll put out a pheromone and be like, "Hey, I got a really great crib here.
That's very cool.
Do you want to come over and hang out?" And then
are the females fighting over him then?
Yeah,
generally when there's a signal.
Yeah, so then the females will fight over the male as well. So you see the
Nice.
This competition in both sexes, especially if the male will do a few things. They'll do what's called stridulation. That's basically where they have these rasping parts on their wings, and they'll make this noise against their elytra. And if the male sounds really good, the female will then want to mate with him more, and they'll often fight over these males, especially if the male is like a larger male. And so, yes, you do see
That's
that
like
competition.
Lead guitarist energy coming from these male beetles.
It is Hallmark movie couple romance season. So I'm getting some real Hallmark, but Hallmark is usually only one and one.
She
but
came
this
from
is
the big city to the small
Yeah,
town.
she's here. She was like, oh,
yeah, she met this. She left her lawyer, her successful lawyer.
She left her big job in the city to go
boyfriend.
find a dead carcass on the forest floor.
Yeah, to find true love over the corpse of the forest floor.
He's just a small town Christmas tree corpse farmer. It's fine.
These are really fascinating beetles. There's a lot of complex behavior going on here, and
So
especially for mate choice.
He doesn't bury it until he's got a friend with him, right?
It depends on the species. We do kind of see both cases happening depending on the species. It's kind of hard to generalize this group with, I think I saw there was 75 species in the kind of in the northern hemisphere. Us being from the States, we do kind of focus a lot of our research in the States. But we do see an interesting thing about that too is we see more diversity of burying beetles in the more northern latitudes, and which is kind of counterintuitive to a lot of biodiversity. We generally think of biodiversity being greater in the in the equator, around the equator. But with burying beetles, that's a theory behind this is that there's usually less competition in the more northern latitudes, and that's why we have a greater diversity of them in the northern latitudes, because there's less competition against flies, against other soil dwelling arthropods, and even like mammals, so things like skunks and opossums that might eat these carcasses. There's generally less competition.
That's fascinating. The only other clade I can think of that has that trend is like seabirds.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I found a video that's time lapse. If you want to take a look at this, Amanda, I'll throw that up on the share screen.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see.
They just want the snow for that perfect Hallmark moment. Preparing the carcass. Oh, they've shown up. Oh, they're stripping him down. Take all that hair off.
Wow.
The ball process is what I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like reverse taxidermy rather than preserve in shape. I'm amazed at how well they can flip him around. They're 1-inch beetles, you said, or whatever. And then here's this mouse, and they're just flinging it all around town. Oh, they're crunching him up. He's getting crunched.
Do they have specially shaped forelimbs at all for movement or for digging?
Yeah, so they will have, they do have kind of flattened, it would be like the tibia and the fibia of their legs to help for digging. They also have like a really broad pronotum and like just like a broader head, all kind of just for moving things around.
They're impressive. These are impressive little beetles. Wow.
This is one of those things that it always impresses me that, we kind of associate intelligence with size, just like as humans. And these little guys are able to work together so well, despite having minimal brain space. But they're able to do this whole activity that I see people struggle to put IKEA furniture together as two humans, and these guys are just going at it. If we spoke bug, would they be yelling at each other like, oh my gosh, just pass me the drill. Oh, I'll do it myself.
Love finds a way.
Love finds a way. Love is blind.
Love is beetles, apparently.
Love is beetles. Do they purposely like break the bones of the mouse or anything, or are they just shoving it as tightly as they can?
I don't think they have that kind of capabilities of kind of like breaking up the bones. I think those are a little too tough for them. So they're really just kind of squishing it as much as possible.
Is that to minimize surface area?
Yeah, exactly. So it's to minimize the surface area, just kind of make the carcass less profile for other things to get to it. And it slows down the decaying process of the carcass.
And you mentioned enzymes before, whether they be from the butt or the mouth. What are those doing?
Yeah, so they'll excrete those enzymes from their mouth or from their anus, and they'll cover the carcass with that. And these secretions have been shown to have antimicrobial properties. So they're basically trying to sanitize the carcass to make it decay slower. A lot of this just comes down to like keeping the carcass as fresh as possible for its offspring.
It's incredible. So Zillah, as one of the non-entomologists in the room, how are you feeling about these incredible beetles?
They're probably my favorite bug. And I don't know. I don't know every bug, right? I never even noticed bugs until Ben and I met, really. But yeah, so now because we do the podcast, like I give people stickers all the time, so people are like want to talk to me about bugs, or they like bring me. Maybe does this happen to you, Amanda? Where like people will send you pictures of bugs and be like, "What is this?" I'm like, I don't know.
I don't get what is this so much as like they'll see an article about like mosquitoes have taken over the eastern seaboard, or whatever it is. They'll send it to me and they'll be like, "What does this mean, Amanda?" And I'm like, I guess I'll ask Kelly. And then I just give her my phone and I'm like, okay, well, Kelly says.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's as far as I get right now. But I do get bug questions.
Yeah, I'm starting to get bug questions, and I'm like, I'm not that guy, but okay.
I'm not that.
You feel like you've learned a lot just from
I have
having
learned,
your
and
podcast,
I can definitely
though.
like talk about like insects in a way that I've never even thought about them before, and it's kind of a cool, like, it's an interesting way of looking at the world, because Ben and I will be like we were in, you told the story on our podcast I think last week, where we were in his friend's garage and he found some like weird little bug, and it was this like big discovery, and it was really exciting. And it kind of, you start to notice insects, and it can make like very mundane spaces a little bit more interesting, especially if you have like an entomologist around who's like can tell you why this weird bug is cool. So, but like burying beetles like have such a cool story that it's like it's very easy to like anthropomorphize and be like and tell stories about, and they're easy to talk about and be like, oh, like it's obvious why they're cool.
Do you have a favorite like a bug vocab word that you've learned?
Ooh.
Anything that you pull out at a party on occasion?
I feel like I just learned the word like elytra, all of their body parts. I'm getting better at identifying, instead of being like, oh, this part, the middle part. I was drawing, I'm a tattoo artist by profession, and I was drawing a bee on someone the other day, and I was like, why doesn't this look right? Like, I know what a bee looks like. So I finally like looked it up, and I was like, oh, I forgot like a whole segment of its body. And then I was like, Ben, I'm glad Ben's not here to see me forget that bees have 3 segments.
The judgments.
Yeah.
The judgment of a partner, yeah. Yeah, Amanda's learned a ton of bug vocabulary.
I find this sometimes happens when like people will ask me something, and like all of a sudden I'm speaking with authority about, and I'm like, do I know this much about bugs that I can speak this way?
Yeah.
And you're like, I guess I kind of do. I guess I talk about bugs a lot, but I'm supposed to be the novice. I'm supposed to be the ding dong on this show, and here I am, having learned so much.
Yeah, like broadly speaking, I can't talk about bugs very well, like at all. But if you ask me about like what Ben's doing for his research for grad school, like I could probably give all of his talks like with a high degree of accuracy.
That's a good partner right there. That's nice. So what is your research, Ben? What's your topic? Topics.
Yeah, I look at scale insects, so specifically Licanium scale, and their effects on not only, so that, to back up for a second, scale insects are probably something that people aren't super familiar with. And
we have not covered those yet.
Yeah,
on the show.
So they're a insect that feeds on plants. They're these tiny little insects that don't have really any sort of characteristics of what we think of an insect. Think of them as just like a bag with this piercing, sucking mouth part that they stick into the plant, and they feed off the phloem or the sap of plants. And so I look at how scale insects affect a lot of our urban trees. So they're really a problem in like urban environments. But also I've kind of diversified my research to look at how scale insects promote other insects in these trees. So when scale insects feed, they produce a lot of honeydew, like aphids do, and honeydew is just that like sugary substance that a lot of plant feeding insects excrete because they don't need all that sugar while they're feeding. And so you get this recruitment of a lot of other things that then feed on that honeydew. And so you have kind of these complex relationships between scales and other insects, where scales are negatively impacting the health of a tree, but they're also promoting all these other insects. So it's kind of a slippery slope.
Ants?
Ants are one, yeah. Ants are a big tender to scales, and ants do a lot of things for our environment, both positive and negative. But other things like yellow jackets and really anything that needs like sugary substance will feed off this honeydew. And so like my research is kind of looking past just like the control of scale insects and looking towards more, how can we maybe keep these scales around in manageable numbers, but also be promoting all these other things that scales promote. So
the scales that you study, or I guess scales in general, are we talking about native species, or is there like an invasive here?
Yeah, so there's a lot of scales out there. The one that I look at, I kind of look at two that are really similar. I look at the oak licanium scale and the European fruit licanium scale. The European fruit licanium scale is introduced into the United States. The oak licanium scale is native. We have other scales like calico scale, which are invasive, but then we have things like tulip tree scale, which are native. I think gloomy scale is also native. That's another problematic scale in urban environments. So it's kind of a mixed bag. And it's one of those things where we're not getting rid of them. So we kind of just have to learn how to work with them.
Right. So, wow. So Zillah, you know all this.
I can't.
You're
So the cool thing about
this.
if he was doing like, bees or something, there would probably be like lay people who could call me out. But because nobody's ever heard of scales, it's very easy for me to like give the like broad strokes, and people are like, wow. And like, because I mean, they don't even really look like bugs,
Right.
The only scale we've covered was the like female form of the red dye beetle, the Carmen beetle. That's it. So that's I'm imagining that weird little alien thing that was like, here I am. And I was like, that's not a bug. What is that?
Yeah, and the only people who like know what they are usually like gardeners or work in greenhouses, and sometimes they don't even know that they're bugs. They think that they're parasites
or something else.
Or, mold or something even. So yeah, I think so it's easy for me to do like the broad strokes of like Ben studies scales. This is what they are. He looked at them on urban trees versus, rural trees.
That's impressive. I get it. When I was wrapping up my master's degree, by the time I got to my master's defense, my husband could do the whole thing for me because I had to rehearse it so many times. And I'm writing, and I'm like, this is what I'm writing about. Or he's like, what project you're working on now? And he's not a mosquito expert at all. He's like a computer programmer, but same boat. Yeah, you just kind of absorb whatever your partner's working on at the time. But scales are wild. I think you're the first person I've met who really is focusing on scales. So that's very cool. What made you choose them as a topic?
Yeah.
Or did they kind of fall on you?
It kind of fell on me. I was taking classes at the University of Kentucky online, and then my PI, my advisor, this is only his second year at University of Kentucky, so he had a new lab, and I saw the job posting for the lab. He did all his master's and PhD work working on scales at NC State. And so that's kind of how he started up the lab. He's like, this is what I'm familiar with. So this is kind of what we're going to research. And I applied for the job and ended up getting it. And so that's kind of how I fell into it. I think we're going to work on, I don't think he wants to do scales forever, but it was a good starting point. And so we're kind of starting to diversify the lab to do other urban landscape work.
Yeah, it's very cool. A lot of the time it happens that way, right? You find an advisor you want to work with, and then whatever they're working on is kind of how it goes, at least in the beginning.
Yeah. But there's been a lot of opportunities. It started out like kind of, as I mentioned, as just like, how do we manage scales? What are they doing to trees? And then we've already kind of started diversifying my project into like these multiple like tritrophic interactions between scales and other insects and the environment and things like that. So
that's very cool. Well, getting back to our buddies, the burying beetles. Although I'd love to do like a whole episode on scales because I don't really know very much about them at all.
We did one when he first kind of got into this lab. Ben was like, I don't really know anything about scales, and that episode got so long. Like there was so much to get into about them. So
was it a two-parter or? It was just the one long episode.
I think it was just the one long episode, but it could have been a two-parter. And like looking back on it, I probably could have made it a two-parter. But it's been published, and I it's part of my research, but it's not necessarily like my passion or like what I want to talk about. I think it's important, but like I'd much rather be talking about other things as well. So,
well, what's cool, I mean, well, thinking about burying beetle, I guess now for what we're doing today, they're really interesting, right? So are they endangered or are they doing okay? What's the conservation status of the burying beetle?
Yeah, so it's hard to tell since generally we see a decline of insect populations across the globe. Mm-hmm. So I do imagine that like burying beetles in general have declined, much like other insects and other organisms. That being said, the American burying beetle, so the Nicrophorus americanus, is a U.S.
I'm sorry, Nicrophorus. What a name! They're my new metal band, Nicrophorus.
Everything sounds really metal in Latin, though. But
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It is perhaps one of the most metal languages.
The American burying beetle, it has actually been U.S. federally endangered since 1989. So they are on the Endangered Species Act and are reaping the benefits of being on the endangered species list. They were originally found in every state east of the Rockies, except for the coastal Carolinas and southern Florida and northern Maine. But their current range is small pockets in Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, Arkansas, and Block Island, which is a little island off the coast of Rhode Island. So this represents 10% of their former range.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There's a lot of theories on why it's declined: pesticide use, artificial lighting, habitat loss, all those kind of big topics that we see. There's also like another hypothesis that the loss of large apex predators leading to the increased competition for smaller carrion. So if you think about it as in we've lost like wolves and mountain lions pretty much in the east. So you have all these smaller predators like foxes, skunks, raccoons, even the Norway rat and feral cats are competing for the same size carrion as burying beetles. And they're not kept in check by these large predators. And so the burying beetles are directly competing with these kind of medium-sized predators for that carrion. And when a burying beetle is going up against a striped skunk, the skunk's going to win 9 times out of 10.
Oh, those poor little guys. That's tough. Insect decline worldwide is pretty horrible for the past few decades.
Amanda, do you want another?
Sad.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Do you want another vocab word, Amanda?
Okay, I'm ready. Vocab me.
The broad term is trophic cascade is when you change the abundance of different animals at different trophic levels, different parts of the food chain, by the addition or removal of certain levels.
That's the name of the first album, is Entrophic Cascade.
Trophic cascade, but specifically removing all of the large apex predators causes a mesocarnivore release.
And they there's that famous story of like they reintroduced wolves, I think it was to Yellowstone, and it caused this cascade of like it moved the deer inward so that the river could recover, and now like the whole ecosystem rebalanced itself.
Yeah, really fixed everything.
Predator.
More problems can be solved by wolves than we're really pursuing at this time.
I would love to reintroduce wolves back to the Northeast, but I think it's a controversial opinion.
Wolves get a bad rap. They're the villain in a lot of fairy tales, the wolf, which I understand.
But they're awesome when they shouldn't be.
But if you were living in a dark forest back in Poland, I could see how the wolf would be a problem for you. Your people.
Yes.
Amanda can't even
I
handle
can't. I'm
cougars,
so
so wolves
scared of
would.
cougars. But
There is like a Polish proverb about when you see a wolf coming from the forest, that it is it's
Well,
usually bad news.
any type of wolf.
So, I forgot what the whole thing is.
There are
but
two
yeah.
wolves inside you, Kelly, and one wants wolves to return,
Oh, God.
and one wants wolves away from you.
It's not an animal you want to see, really. I mean, if it's
I know.
announcing
Yeah.
itself that way, that's
My
usually a sign
neighbor,
that, you know.
sorry,
Yeah, I can remember in Polish, but I'll probably butcher it, so I won't do it. But sorry for our guests. My grandmother is
Yeah,
Polish, so I have proverbs.
yeah, my neighbor shot a coyote a few weeks back, like on a street,
I
and
hate that.
I was like, okay, why are you telling me this? I don't want to know that. And he was like, well, now you know. I was like, oh, okay, great, thanks.
Coyotes are like incredible at adapting to all kinds of different environments. Like when I lived in San Francisco for a long time, and like there are coyotes in Golden Gate Park, which is like in the middle of this, you know, very urban environment. Yeah. And they'll sorry,
That's awesome.
I don't know. The coyotes are cool. They're like,
We have them in
they're
Central
one of the
Park in
only
New York,
where they
too.
can either run in packs or they can live on their own, and they're kind of fine either way. Like coyotes are cool.
I taught in Portland at an elementary school, and there was just one vacant lot, like a block down from the school. It's elementary school, and a coyote just fully lived in this vacant lot, and we'd see it around.
We had a 3-legged coyote who lived outside this elementary school. I grew up in Southern California, like in the desert. Yeah, and there was like a school coyote, and he had 3 legs.
The kids must have dropped enough Cheetos that he could live. So.
Yeah, right. And we used to walk we had like a little pug mix dog, and we lived right at the edge of the desert, and like we would have to hike with sticks because they would just like follow us because they wanted to eat our dog.
Oh no. I see.
That is the most succulent dog.
A pug does look delicious. He looks like he would taste.
I mean,
like a
he was
very,
he was kind of a chonker, so I understand. But they can't eat our dog.
There is a movie called.
They tried a few times, but
there's a movie called Mitchell versus the Machines, in which a not insignificant plot point is that the robots that are trying to take over the world can't tell the dog apart from a pig or a loaf of bread. And it is a pug. They're like, is it a dog? Is it a loaf of bread? Is it a pig? What is it? And like breaks the robot's like capture brain because he can't tell. Oh, there you go. Anti-coyote vest. You could turn.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not saying this looks exactly like a caterpillar.
It looks like a tussock moth caterpillar.
Turn your dog into a caterpillar so he doesn't get taken by a hawk or a coyote. Perfect. That's a big dog to get taken by a hawk. I guess that one's anti-coyote. It's like a poodle mix. Anyway, so I've started to draw here. Let me show you what I have right now. Derek, I'll send this to you 1 second, and then we can decide what we need to add. And then I'll give me 1 second to send this.
Well, we should ask our guests, what superpowers would a hero based off of the burying beetle have?
Oh, we talked about this so much. We got really excited talking about
It's the best part of the show. We love to make
we named
the
them.
Superhero. What is the name?
So we thought that they would be like a dynamic duo, kind of like Batman and Robin. So we named them Crypt Keeper and the Embalmer.
That's great.
And so
what powers? Yeah.
So I believe in the drawing you had the
ooh, look how cute they are.
So I tried to I'll explain my thought process here. I tried to put them in like a Morticia and Gomez-esque pose because they were giving me a little bit gothic vibes. And then I put them in, because the two beetles look so similar, you know, because the sexual dimorphism between the two beetles is, from what I could see, very minimal. I put them both in crime scene tech outfits. We could put them in something more heroic, but for now, that's what I put them in. And then, of course, I tried to make them look vaguely like you guys. So that's where we stand. What we need.
I found myself kind of thinking about like park ranger outfits.
Oh yeah, okay.
For them because they clean up the forest floor and yeah. So I didn't want to like step on your toes, but I did a drawing.
Oh my
also.
gosh, yes. Bro. That's just my. Let's do it.
I love this though. I can't believe you just sat here and drew that.
That's the game, baby.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the game.
great. That's very cool.
And then Derek's gonna put up Zillah's drawing.
You did
so
like a
Amanda can see.
proper
It's
drawing.
amazing.
Yes.
So I have to confess, I've been having like the worst art block. Like I haven't drawn anything in like 6 weeks. Like the thought of picking up a pencil has just been like, ugh. And then this kind of came up and I was like, maybe I'll just like sketch something. And then I didn't do anything else.
It looks amazing. It's giving me Man at Arms vibe.
Yeah,
from
I was
He-Man.
gonna say Juggernaut helmet. Like, just come at me. I don't care. I'm the Juggernaut.
Yeah, I don't think their outfits are very functional. I think I got a little bit like
They look great
50s
though.
sci-fi.
If there's anything that is not functional, it's superhero suits. So like, do not worry about that.
Yeah. What, Zillah, do you know what is that style? I was looking at it last night and I love this. It's amazing. That under corsets.
Oh, right.
What is that from?
I don't know. I feel like though they come on my Instagram, like the costume makers and stuff who come up on my Discover page. I feel like I get like those little corsets all the time, and I don't know what they're called or what they are, but
It
the
just
algorithm has been
reminds
feeding
me
them
of
to me.
something. Yeah, it's great. It looks fantastic.
I feel like they're
It's
having a moment.
perfect.
I keep getting like crochet corset like
Yeah,
suggested.
I've been getting
to
a lot
me
of
'cause
chainmail too.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of chainmail.
I think a lot of the do it at home yourself crafts are like they're back in the feed, baby. They're here.
Yeah.
If I might be the bigger brother for a moment, I like this better than much of Amanda's
How
art.
dare you? I'm drawing a picture in 20 minutes.
Amanda did it in 30 seconds. Yeah, that's impressive.
I'm not
That's the
trying to do.
impressive
I'm
part.
trying to draw something quickly, Derek. How dare you come on to my podcast and criticize me this way?
I only had to do this. I only had to do this once. If I had to do it weekly, I wouldn't, honestly.
Yeah, poor Amanda does
The
this every
premise
week.
is that I draw it on the podcast. You want to give me 2 weeks to draw something out, Derek?
I love this though. I love the detail on this.
Yeah, when I was
I'm
doing
gonna
the
quickly move on. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
So thinking about either artwork, both artwork is wonderful, and you're both incredibly talented and fantastic. Derek. So
Derek.
what
and most importantly, I think we both captured that they're in love.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's what's important here. What so what superpowers would they have?
You guys mentioned
Our
embalming
couple.
fluid now, and I don't know if I missed that at some point, but like, was that like the anal secretions?
The anal secretions. I actually when I kind of missed that it was anal secretions, or else I might have played with that a little more.
So the whole process is okay. So I'm a fella. I'm a beetle. I stumble upon a dead mouse or whatever it is, whatever carrion it is in the forest. I'm gonna sit on that and say, "Here's my perfume. Here's my perfume. I'm looking for a beautiful partner in this life to look at my beautiful carrion mouse." And then any other fella that comes along, I'm like, "Get out of here! Get out of here!" And then eventually a lady comes along and she fights off all the other ladies. Get out of here! And then finally we have our beautiful pair, and they crush that whatever item it is, whatever form or being, into a little ball. You dig a little chamber underneath it so it falls down into that trapdoor. Then you quickly bury it. And then you inject it with a bunch of serum that keeps it from rotting too quickly. And then you grow your family on it. And I assume continue to fight off bad guys.
Yeah.
With your beautiful family on your beautiful meatball.
Yeah, and another aspect of that is like the parents will also feed the larva, so they'll regurgitate saliva that they've from like they'll eat the carrion, kind of like a mother bird,
baby bird.
Yeah, and
baby
they'll
bird.
regurgitate that and feed the larva. So the larva aren't only eating the carcass themselves, but they'll eat the the saliva from the adults, and they'll help feed their larva.
Well, that's like next level parental care.
Yeah.
That's really
That's not
investment.
just
That's a big
protecting them.
investment.
That's like nurturing them, which is really rare to see in the bug.
But if there's too many eggs, sometimes the parents will also eat the eggs.
Mm.
Oh no.
The hamster. The
It's
hamster
very
effect.
survival of the strongest, I think. Among
Yeah, I guess you want to be the first bug to hatch.
among the family, yeah.
Yeah. The shark where he eats all his siblings before they've even become siblings.
It's a rough life to be a little guy, a little thing crawling around. It's amazing. What a very cool beetle. I'm so glad you guys were here to teach us about them. That's awesome. And what a weird world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when we started talking about this, there wasn't even really much debate about what we wanted to do. Because burying beetles are so cool.
So we've got digestive butt juice.
Yes, of course.
And saliva. We probably have digging, I suppose. Flight. I always forget that beetles can fly because they look ridiculous when they fly.
Yeah, they're like
they don't
booty always
they don't
eggs,
do it a
they-
lot. Yeah, they're a little butt heavy. What else do we have for superpowers? Anything else? Did you guys have a list? Anything we missed?
I guess I guess good at hand-to-hand combat, since they're fighting off other burying beetles. But I guess that can be like balanced with like there's still they still have to work together in a sense. We'll see that because the female sometimes raises the young by herself, but we do see when the male does participate in that, there's better success of the offspring. And so there's that cooperation. They're not only good at fighting, but they also know how to wield a pen, I guess, in a sense.
And they'll correct me if I'm wrong, but they'll sometimes be collectivists, like with other beetles, because there's so many species, right? It's hard to generalize. But like that video that we watched, there was like a bunch of
pairs.
Yeah, pairs kind of working together.
Wow. Yeah.
So
they're not colonial, but they're gregarious, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. And and it doesn't always happen where they're gregarious like that, but in cases of like if it's a big organism where the pair can't bury it themselves, other pairs will come in. And it's not, I don't know if it's necessarily, you can't get in the mind of the beetle if they're doing it, as an altruistic thing, but you'll see multiple pairs working on a single organism to bury it and then put their young in there.
That's cool. That's really cool. Although I would say when I think about different types of gregarious insects, it does seem like beetles are a little more likely to do that. We see that in ladybugs, but maybe it's just because beetles as a group are taxonomically so large. It's maybe just a statistics thing and less a group thing, less a taxa thing.
Yeah. And also, since they're so dependent on carrion, a lot of research has looked at how really the limiting factor for carrion beetles is the carrion. If you think of like how carrion is a scarce resource compared to other things, like if you can feed on plants, there's plants everywhere, where carrion is kind of a very specific event that comes up, where sometimes you're almost forced into cooperation, where this is the only resource you have and you got all these other pairs trying to get to this resource. Then sometimes it just works out where cooperation is just, you're kind of forced into it.
Yeah, because if you fight, maybe everyone loses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a bet hedging in a way. Was there anything else like truly incredible that you wanted to tell us about burying beetles, or that maybe you missed?
We'd like to hear about the tattoo that Ben has.
Is Ben repping bug tattoos over here?
Ben and I met because he came in to get my boss at the time was like, I wanted to do more realism, and my boss at the time was like, there's this weird guy and he wants this weird bug tattoo. Do you want to do that?
And your answer was, of course.
Yeah.
Your eyes met over Carrion in the
Sure.
Forest, and you knew that this was the one.
So yeah, but so we've done a few bug tattoos. On burying beetles. A burying beetle was one of the earlier ones.
That's awesome.
So I guess another kind of cool thing about burying beetles is if you ever catch a burying beetle, they often have these little mites on them. I think they're called phoratic mites, and so they don't harm the beetle. They're kind of little hitchhikers on the beetle. And when a burying beetle is making this brood chamber, some of these mites will drop off into the chamber. And these mites will often eat the brood of unwanted flies in the nest. And and they then, like when the beetles hatch, they'll hitch back up onto those beetles and kind of like move on with the new beetle. So the burying beetles aren't alone; they'll often have these mites on them that help. And the mites can eat the brood of the beetles as well. They're not entirely selective, but they are. But overall, the relationship between the mites and these beetles is positive, where the mites are benefiting from this brood chamber and these resources, and they're also eating things like fly larvae to keep the flies from inhabiting the carcass as well.
That's really cool.
So not only are they like a little family, they have pets. Like there's
okay.
They're just so charming.
And because they're not really selective about whether they potentially eat the burying beetle's eggs, I would say they're closer to cats than dogs.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That is so cool. I love a little, symbiosis going on. And especially in the small world like that, it's really cool.
It's really an insect whose like story has it all. It's like a little bit gross, which good stories should be a little bit yucky.
Those are my favorite stories.
And there's like a little bit of romance, maybe. And
sorry to put you on the spot like that, Ben, asking about tattoos. I didn't expect you to flash anything.
No, yeah. So one of the tattoos I have on my chest is the American Burying Beetle. So, repping one of our insects on the endangered species list.
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to ask about how Walter is doing.
Walter's doing well. I don't think he's going to pupate this year. I think he's it's hard to tell what stage he's at with beetle larvae. But for the people who don't know, I found this large beetle larva or grub in the forest over the summer, and I was like, oh, this is either a stag beetle larva or some sort of Hercules beetle larva. And so I brought him home, and I've been rearing him in this little container. He's just kind of doing his thing.
What kind of substrate do you have him in?
So I have him in like a potting mix, and then what he's been feeding on is like decaying oak logs. So to the point where the log can kind of fall apart, I just kind of brought home a bag of the detritus that he was feeding on, or it was feeding on when I found him.
Oh, that's so exciting. I hope it becomes an adult. I hope it pupates.
Are you guys interested in the philosophical debate we've been having about Walter?
Yes, 100%.
Is that when Walter pupates, do we have to give him a new name, or is he still Walter? Is he the same organ? Like, is he the same guy, or is he a different guy?
Oh, it's still Walter. Okay. Are you talking about like this particular organism? Now we know more about him, and we can rename him?
This particular Walter, he's gonna turn into mush and puke and reemerge as a beetle. Like, is he still Walter? Is he the same soul Or
Right. This is the Star Trek
yeah,
transporter
What is
argument.
he?
If I put all the same things back in the same order, is it the same guy?
Yes.
Or have I killed the previous Kirk?
Right.
And this is just a new Kirk that's exactly like him.
right.
Well, we know with caterpillar larvae that when they become caterpillar soup and reform into adults, that they remember like stimuli that they were exposed to as caterpillars. So I would say maybe
Do they
some of
really?
Walt.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
They remember.
Yeah, this is probably maybe a 20-year-old study now, but yeah, they introduced scientists introduced caterpillar to some kind of negative stimuli, and then it pupated and became an adult, and it avoided
Remember
that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I love that. It's torturing butterflies is sad, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's science, my
That's
friend.
bug research. We talk about this, how many if bug researchers are often expected to like collect and kill the like insects that they're researching.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of justify it
Yeah.
because their lifespan is so short.
Yes.
And if you're doing the collection, you should collect when hopefully they've already reproduced and you're getting a fully formed adult that has passed on their genes to the next generation.
Setting a bad precedent for when the aliens come, Kelly, that have naturally
Yes.
like 500-year lifespans. Like, it's okay. We can experiment on the humans. They only last 80 years.
Well,
Anyway.
I haven't reproduced and I don't plan on reproducing, so I'll be fine.
Oh, right.
You'll
Yeah.
have to leave
No.
me.
That's a good point.
I'm in danger.
Next episode, we'll be talking a lot about curation. So that'll be exciting.
We have
Cool.
another ESA.
Yeah, we've had a
Connect.
lot of offers from folks we met at ESA,
Okay, well,
which is wonderful.
I've added a few more details. Let me quickly.
Oh yeah, let's see, Amanda.
I fear all I've really done is messy up the sketch, but that's all right. Come on, Photoshop. Photoshop, you're just the worst sometimes.
Now it's so expensive for it to be the worst.
I know, right? Why am I paying you so much for you to be terrible?
Darn Adobe.
What
You don't
software
own
did you
anything
use,
anymore.
Zillah, for your art?
I use Procreate on my iPad.
I think I'm headed that direction.
Yeah,
Everyone is making the jump.
it's incredible. I use it for everything, and I paid $10 for it one time.
Right.
I mean, 7 or 8 years ago now.
Yeah, I hate that everything's a subscription now.
Mhm.
Let me just buy it once, please.
You can't own
Yeah.
anything. You own nothing now.
Yeah. And you will be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be happy to pay. My Surface is about 6 years old now, and that's about how long computers last. So I'm starting to sock things away to eventually get Procreate on a new device. All right, so I've added an embalming fluid
Oh
Nerf gun of some kind.
I'm obsessed
And
with
I've given
them.
you a pet mite as well.
Oh, look
And
at
I
that
tried
little
to
mite. So cute.
make their outfits a little bit more park rangery, with cargo pant pockets kind of serving as the spots. I wanted to keep the hoods on because they have that little, don't get in my dirt hood. That all
You could put the
fills up.
Tyvek over the ranger suit.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, they're
perfect.
so cute.
And then because both producer Derek and Ben have such marvelous mustaches, we had to make sure we had a mustache
really
in
do
there
have
today.
Incredible mustache representation today.
Yes, truly the twirly mustaches in the chat today.
It's
Oh.
wonderful as
Yeah,
always.
I am
Amanda.
obsessed with it. It's so cute.
This is their civilian forms, and then yours is their true superhero form. We could post them together
Their
as a
secret
duo.
alter egos. Oh my god.
Because we end up talking about civilian forms a lot on this show, somehow or another.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We have to hang it on the wall. I love them.
I'll get you the final form of them.
Yeah, Amanda will get you a fully colored in.
Yeah, I
finished
usually just
piece.
sketch on the show and then I'll line it up later. But again, the premise, Uncle Derek, producer Derek, your producer Derek on this show, the premise is that I draw it on the show. Now I feel on the spot. All right. Well, what would you rate? It sounds like you love this bug, but what would you rate this bug out of legs? 6 out of 6 legs?
I think it deserves 6 out of 6 legs, and I'll give some reasoning behind it too.
All right, I'm ready.
I think it's one of those insects that, like, if we're talking about the general public, they're an insect that, like, we can get people on board with, on the insect train with. You know, they have all these like cool features that people can relate to, like working together, caring for your young. They're large, you can handle them well, so they're like a good specimen to like show to kids, because they're, you know, they don't just fall apart. They're hardy, and they're large enough to look at, so they're like an insect that you can show to people and they can actually like observe them without any sort of like microscope or anything like that. So
Are they handleable? They're okay to pick up and
yeah,
touch?
yep, they're handleable. You know, they don't have any like toxic chemical that will burn you or anything like that that I know of. I'm gonna premise that, so if someone does get hurt, I don't want to hear any emails about it.
Yeah. Don't at Ben, please.
In my mouth and
yeah, don't eat them.
They're endangered. Please don't eat them.
Yeah, and that's like another thing is like they have they got enough representation, you know, in the government to be able to be listed, where, you know, I feel like there's a lot of species that deserve that representation that didn't. So they kind of got their foot in the door, and they're like a good one to point to and be like, yeah, that's one that, you know, we should care about. I believe we should care about all of them, but like you got to start with somewhere with the public, and then you can be like, well, look at all these cool things it does, and all the, you know, ecosystem services it provides.
They're a good gateway bug.
A good gateway bug.
Yeah. Amanda, what do you think?
Well,
Zillah, I'm assuming you're also 6 out of 6.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked before about how important it is, and the invisible labor that so many bugs do for us, which is just recycling resources back into the system that we don't think about until, because we talked about this on the dung beetle episode, where like if dung beetles weren't doing their dung beetle work, we'd all just be living in garbage. All right, we'd just be no good. But so here's another beetle that's just quietly taking care of discarded nutrients, as it were, and reintroducing them into the system.
Yeah.
And you'd hate to think if all bugs were gone, how quickly the carrion would pile on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think they're pretty cool. I think anything that can embalm you without having to get other resources is pretty dang old cool. That's pretty metal. So yeah, I'd say 6 out of 6. I think they're pretty cool. I think, and you know, I love. You know that I love when beetles.
You're a sucker for a pair of bugs. You are.
I am a sucker for a pair of bugs. I love when a bug is like cooperative, like I was saying about like how they manage to strip and bury this carcass. That like, it's amazing to me the level of like coexistence that requires, and like, I don't know, it just feels extra special when it's a bug.
And like I feel like it's storytelling that's more easy to relate to as a human being. Like bees are sort of programmed to be this collectivist thing and all work together.
Yeah.
And they do that very well. And it's interesting, I think interesting and like maybe more relatable as a human being, trying to like navigate society, to talk about an insect that like works together, even if it doesn't necessarily want to, you know, to survive. You know, I just think it's, and again, you can't like anthropomorphize them too much. Like they're probably like the insect itself is probably not thinking that deeply about it. But yeah, I mean, I just think from like a storytelling point of view, they have a really good story.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And I mean, you're right, Zillah, this is what gets the public to care, is a story, a bug with a background. And I think I would also give them a 6 out of 6. But I think I very rarely give low bug numbers.
Maybe after you do the podcast for a few years and you like work through all your favorite bugs, and then you're getting into the like B team.
I'm like, Well, we are so excited that you came today. Really, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was an excellent interview. I had a blast. I learned so much about burying beetles. Where can we find you guys?
Yeah, so we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like you said at the beginning, our show is called There Will Be Bugs. We're also on Instagram at There Will Be Bugs. That I post a lot of just insect photos that I've taken of things
Awesome.
I've seen, and provide like some information about the photo, what insect it is, kind of, what did they do and things like that. My email is bdkn223@uky.edu. Zillah has a website that we have show notes on.
Yep. So, and we as a family only need to pay for one web domain. So we're using the website I already have for my business, which is just zillahsmith.com/there-will-be-bugs. You can find show notes and stuff there. We'll put, if it's okay with you, we'll put maybe all of our illustrations on there for this.
Sure.
So, and also
we'll link to that in our show notes too.
Yeah. And then I'm a tattoo artist here in Lexington. So if you want to come get a tattoo from me, my Instagram is just at Zillah Smith, Zillah Zillah.
What's the tattoo parlor called? If you want to shout that out, you can.
Penumbra Tattoo Studio. So it's right downtown on Maxwell Street. It's very, very queer friendly. They're actually having, they're doing a whole day of gay marriages today. Today at the tattoo
I love
shop.
that.
Isn't that
That's
cool?
awesome. That's really nice.
So, yeah. So you can find Penumbra online. You can go to my website, zillahsmith.com, and find links to all of these places that I just talked about, or from Ben from the Instagram.
And that's Zillah with an H.
Yes, Zillah Smith, like Smith. Weird first name.
I found a bug.
Last name.
Now I'm just scrolling through your Insta. Sorry, I'm just looking at all the tattoo work. I love this skeleton wearing a tutu. That's very cool. I really like that.
Yeah, and it's on one of my favorite people. I've been tattooing such cool people since I moved to Lexington. It's been great. So,
if I'm ever down there, maybe you can touch up some of my older tattoos.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, ESA is in Portland next year, and I might have to convince some of my tattoo artist friends that they need to have a booth at ESA where all they do is like bug tattoos on people.
So Ben was saying, at ESA that there were like artists and stuff with booths, and we talked about that a little. I think it would be really cool to come to do an ESA tattoo booth.
I think they'd get a lot of clients, like a lot.
Yeah, I think
bug people are also
people love
tattoo people.
tattoos, and it's people. I don't know. People love impulsive tattoos too. So it's amazing how people will see a tattoo shop, see a tattoo booth, and be like, "Oh, I am here. A tattoo artist is here. I will get a tattoo."
I will get this.
I've got a couple of tattoo artist friends that I think I'll hit up and say you should apply to get an ESA booth.
Yeah.
The problem is it's hard to tattoo just anywhere because you have to
licensing is hard in Oregon.
Whatever.
Yeah, I know tattoo licensing in Oregon is tricky. So, but yeah, we might even just come to a There Will Be Bugs booth next year because Ben had fun at ESA and I stayed home.
I was so jelly. Both Kelly and Derek were there. They're like, check out all this cool bug stuff, and I was like, oh, I want to see cool bug stuff.
Well, maybe we should do a BugsNeedHeroes booth or something in Portland.
I don't want more responsibility.
Well, maybe we just get Amanda's art and we just plug the pod. We don't have to record an episode.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to you guys about that in a little bit. Off mic, we have some things to talk. Well, why don't you plug the last websites real quick, and then we'll let these guys go get on with their day.
All right. If you want to see our friends Ben and Zillah, you can find them at There Will Be Bugs. Once again, if you can find us at BugsNeedHeroes, you're already here. You can go to BugsNeedHeroes.com, and you can find more stuff there. You can go to the Instagram. You can go to the whatever Twitter is calling itself these days. You can go to Blue Sky if you want. I mean, I'm not
go to Blue Sky,
but I am telling you to go to Blue Sky. Reddit, we're there. We're answering questions. Come talk to us. Love you. Bye. Oh, I love this beluga. Sorry, I'm still just scrolling your Instagram. I love belugas because they're like, you think it's gonna be a fat little guy, and then he comes out of the water. You're like, why is he so ripped? Why is he so strong?